Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to another exciting episode of 5 Favorite Box Sets, number 12. So most of you guys know this, but if you don't, I've got a pretty big music collection of over 12,000 CDs and over 350 box sets. And so while I typically focus on the individual album when I'm talking about things, doing countdowns, stuff like that, this series here is going to have me focusing on my mini box sets, running through some of my favorites. And for this particular episode here, we're going to be focusing on alternate album editions. So that's where like a classic album itself is provided in an alternate edition using alternate takes, demos, live recordings, rare recordings, any of that sort of stuff, different mixes, things of that nature. And so I've got 5 of these great box sets to run through with you. But of course, before we get started, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things do help support my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, if you turn on notifications, you're going to stay up to date on really cool episodes just like this with 5 favorite box sets. Episode number 12, where we're focusing on alternate album editions. All right, so what makes a good box set? For me, it's a variety of material in the box set, having alternate takes, demos, B-sides, outtakes, live, that sort of stuff. So these box sets here actually really achieve what it is that I'm looking for in box sets, where some of the other things that are maybe just album collections and stuff like that don't always do it for me, of course, unless it is that I don't own those albums. But many different kinds of box sets out there. This one here, we're looking at the alternate editions, as I mentioned. I like for the box sets to have something new for the hardcore fan, so it's not just something for the run-of-the-mill people. And of course, you know, if it includes book and memorabilia and stuff like that, then that's just icing on the cake as well. All right, so I'm going to run through these 5 alphabetically. First up, we got the ever-changing, enigmatic David Bowie. And this one is Toy from 2022. This was a famous lost album, and I know a lot of people really don't like the album art on it. I totally get it. I'm not a fan of that either. It'll make a little bit more sense later on as to why we have the old face of David Bowie on a baby, calling it Toy. As I said, so this is a famous lost album that was recorded back in 2001, released originally as part of the Brilliant Adventure box set that spanned 1991 to 2001, but eventually receiving this, a standalone release where it has been expanded into 3 CDs. So all of this did not come part of the Brilliant Adventure box set. It's now been expanded into its own thing. The unreleased album was a bit of a trip down memory lane for David Bowie, where he did re-recordings of his early career going all the way back to 1965. So that's why we have the baby with the old face. We've got old David Bowie revisiting his young beginning of his career. So conceptually, I like the album cover. In that regard, I just don't actually like the picture of it. It's a little kind of creepy, if you ask me. But the re-recordings on here already provide an alternate addition to the original tracks from going, as like I said, as far back as 65, 66, 67. Somewhere in there was the original recording of all these tracks. But now they've been expanded with alternate editions in its own right. So we got the original 2001 recording of this on disc 1 in here. Then we've got disc 2, which features an alternate mix of the original album. But what's cool is it's also got the proposed B-sides that would have been released had this album come out. And disc 3 then is an unplugged, but as they say, somewhat electric mix to the album itself. So 3 different mixes, all contained in this box of the original album. This one here, just a lift top style box, does come with a book in it, which is nice. I do like the gloss with the matte finish on it to read the title. And not much in the way of stuff that's in here, but you do get some write-up on information about it, and you get some cool photos and that sort. And then you get the 3 albums themselves, all with just slight variations on the cover itself. And there's the back side of it. So not that interesting in terms of packaging, but in terms of the alternate editions, they're quite varied and I like it a lot. There's different track listings on it. So all of that together to me makes for a really good box set, becoming one of my favorites in terms of the alternate editions at least. Okay, we're moving on to one of the biggest selling artists of the 70s, Fleetwood Mac. The alternate collection, they're actually titling theirs as what it is. Came out in 2022. It is a 6 CD box set. It was released as part of Record Store Day on Black Friday, featuring alternate editions of their albums from 1975 to 1987. So originally, the stuff that's in here was part of these deluxe editions that had multiple disc sets and stuff like that. So we've got Fleetwood Mac from 75, Rumors from 77, Tusk from 79, and it does include the live album from 1980, Mirage from 82, and then Tango in the Night 87. So those alternate editions were created as part of the deluxe editions. So in this case, I'm going to show you here. So we've got Tusk, and if we flip it over, it's a 3 CD set, but it does have the alternate edition of Tusk. So that has simply been pulled and put into this box here, and it's made up of alternate takes, early takes, demos, run-throughs, acoustic, and there are some unreleased tracks that didn't make the albums as well, which is really cool. So they did create new art for this. This is just a clamshell style box that opens like this. Unfortunately, no book, but we do get all of the albums themselves in alternate album artwork. So that was the self-titled. Then we get Rumors here. We get Tusk. The live album is done as a gatefold. None of the others were done as the gatefold. Mirage, and finally Tango in the Night, which is my favorite of all the alternate album covers. So I just like them again because they are made up of different takes. It has a different sound to the album and things like that. So albums that I've heard so many times before by this band, it's kind of like I'm hearing it fresh for the first time in this different sequence, different take on the songs. And as I said, there are some unreleased tracks and some didn't have early takes, and then those don't appear on here. Again, giving this whole thing kind of a new flavor, and it's a lot of fun. So if you didn't get one of those during Record Store Day, they're not readily available otherwise. You can get those alternate editions as part of these albums, so they are available. I just like the standalone, and I like that they've been collected together with their own artwork in the box, making it, again, one of my favorites because of that. Okay, moving on to the third one here, we've got Japanese metal band Loudness on the Prowl 30th Anniversary Edition, which came out in 2021. This is an interesting one. It's got a hard case on it and everything just slides out like that. So this is a 3 CD, 1 DVD box set of their 9th studio album. That's the original of it from Atco Records when it first came out itself. This was the second album featuring American vocalist Mike Vasara, who came from the metal band Obsession. And for this one here was kind of an interesting thing they chose to do. They did re-recordings of older songs that originally had their lyrics in Japanese, now translated to English via Mike. And it did feature 3 new songs on it, which happened to be the first 3 songs on the album: Down and Dirty, Playing Games, and Love Toys. But this box set here features alternate editions of it. So instead of just putting this album right in the box, they actually chose to give you some alternate editions of it. Disc 1 in here is a 2021 lacquer master, and I assume what that means is it was the mastering for the vinyl. So simply they took the sound from the vinyl to make the CD, which I kind of find interesting, giving it a little more warmth to it maybe. Disc 2 is a TV mix of it, which I didn't know what that meant until I actually bought this, and I kind of had to take a chance on it because all the information for this was mostly in Japanese and I didn't get a lot of upfront information before ordering it. But that TV mix turned out to be instrumental takes of these. And it's not just take out the vocals kind of a thing. These are things that were re-edited and done so that they could be played in TV shows and stuff like that as background music. It's very cool to listen to just like that. Kind of gave an entirely new feel to the album because it brought up in the mix, some of the lead guitar work and stuff like that that I didn't necessarily recognize when I was listening to it with vocals. Then disc 3 is an interesting one because it is drum-oriented demos. So it's got the drum mix up front in it with the demo performance of everything else. And they've done that before where they've given the drummer some real sort of upfront props in the band with doing things like this. And I also, again, just hearing it that different ways, from the instrumental to the drum-oriented demos to the more warmer sound of the lacquer mix on this thing, makes this pretty cool. And then disc 4 in here is a DVD that's got some live performances on it, music videos, all making for a very cool box set. And again, as I showed you, this just slides out like this. We do get a book in here, which is very cool and all, except all the information and everything is in Japanese. So you can't really enjoy that aspect of it, but we got a lot of cool photos throughout this thing, which is just really, really excellent to get that. And then you've got this, which is sort of a digipack style thing where it just unfolds. Again, gives you some cool photos and everything again, and you get all 4 discs like that when it opens up. So while not heavy, again, on the memorabilia and that sort of stuff, some box sets are, some aren't. I go for music content. All right, next one up in here comes from Glam Metal legend Mike Tramp, and it is simply called Tramp the Bootleg Series from 2003. Very simple packaging, not a lot going on. A very simple thin cardboard outer case that's on 6 jewel cases in here. This was only available via his website. So this is one of your do-it-yourself style productions back in 2003. This was not done by a record label. He put this all together. It's now long out of print. So you got to forgive him a little bit for doing such simple packaging on this stuff. Again, really focusing on the content here. And it features alternate editions of White Lion's 3 biggest albums. We got Pride from '87, Big Game from '89, and Main Attraction, of which I've got originals in here, so I'm totally fine getting some alternate editions of things like that. I love hearing albums develop and grow and that sort of stuff through demos and things of that nature. Now, also part of this box set, we've got 2 albums of early material pre-White Lion, and then we've also got 1 album of post-White Lion material where Mike Tramp was sort of figuring out what he wanted to do next before he formed Freaks of Nature, which became the follow-up to White Lion later. So as I said, very simple in the packaging of this thing here. The jewel cases just simply slide out like that. We'll start with the last one here, which is the early material. This is 81 to 82, Studs and Danish Lions, which is 2 early versions of the band, having some classic stuff that would later go on to be White Lion stuff. We then have unreleased from 83 to 85, which is starting out with the White Lion material, Fight to Survive, stuff like that in here. We've got the Pride recording here, an alternate take. We've got 86 work tape and the original recordings before they were mixed and mastered into what they became. The Big Game demos in here. Then we've got Main Attraction. This one here is from start to finish. It says it's got 16 tracks on it, including some 8-track demos. And then we've got Mike and Oliver, and this was a project after called Brothers for Life. This guy's recorded with Mike Tramp on and off for many years. Tons and tons of tracks of stuff that didn't make it onto other things. So lots of cool unreleased material. But as I said, you get those 3. Let me just dig them up here. There we go. We do get the 3 classic albums, Pride, Big Game, and Main Attraction, all in alternate format there through the demos, the run-throughs, and the stuff like that. And again, from somebody like Mike Tramp and White Lion that has such little material out there, I totally cherish a box set like this, regardless of its packaging or whatnot, because again, just so hard to find that material out there. Now, of all of this, the 6 CDs that is, or the 6 albums that is, Cleopatra Records Deadline would compile 2 CDs worth of this and call it an anthology. And that's the extent of this that has been released. The rest of this, unreleased. So if you want to hunt one of those down, it's well worth it. Okay, and we're going to wrap up here with one of the greatest live bands ever, UFO, Strangers in the Night from 2020. This amazing box set in here. Very cool the way this thing slides out. I'll show you more in just a bit. This is a deluxe 8-CD box set edition of the original live album that came out back in 1979. Now, it was their second official live album, but first with lead guitar player Michael Schenker playing on it, and probably one of the reasons why this became so famous for them. Now, while it is one of the most classic live albums, it's always been shrouded in controversy over how much of it was redone in the studio. We know at least 2 of the songs are studio recordings that had crowd noise added to it. The producers confirmed it, the band has confirmed it. We just don't know how much else was actually done that way. Michael Schenker has always claimed that one of the reasons he left the band was that they wanted him to go in and record in the studio and fix parts, and he didn't want to do that. So how much of that was done, again, we're not entirely sure. But the box set provides the original unedited concert recordings that were used to make the album itself. Of course, that ultimately was heavily edited. So we're now getting those unedited straight live performances. We've also got the original version of the album, because when the remastered edition like this came out, it added bonus tracks to it and it put them within the sequence in the recording, and it changed the running order, not what it is that people would originally expect to be if you had grown up with this thing. And this box set returns it to that original running order. The first 2 in here are done as the original LP, so it actually breaks the CD down just so that you get the same feel as the LP edition, which I think is very cool. So there's the box set itself. Got lots of cool graphics all over this thing. It's done by Chrysalis, the original label. This slides out, so nothing here. It's a hard cover there, but then this thing slides out like that, and we get all of the discs here. So we do get a book, and we get all the discs, and those just simply slide out, if I can get them to all come out. They're nice and tight, which is very good. And so, as I said, we do get the original double live album itself, made as a gatefold. So it's 2 CDs, and while it would all fit on one disc, I like that they've done that to create that, which is now essentially an alternate edition to this, because this is the only version that's now in print. And then we get all of the original concerts that were recorded that make up this in their unedited format. And again, I like that they each have their own sleeves, their own original art on them. Okay, and we wrap up with the book, which interestingly comes in its own sleeve, and then the book slides out of that, I guess to protect it. And this one has plenty of stuff that we get to read because, of course, it's all in English. It is not one of the Japanese editions or something like that. Lots and lots of cool stuff as part of this one here. So there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Episode 12, 5 favorite box sets. This one focusing on alternate album editions. I love all of these. As I said, this is really about the music and the content of that more than it is about memorabilia. Sometimes memorabilia is great, but for me, a music fan, I always want that alternate edition take, etc., and the rarity. All right, everyone, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.